swore he heard her talk back to him. So he took her back to his house, stuffed her with coat hangers,
do I still have all my stuff?
With her normally. He'd eat with
I
her,
still have all my
he'd
stuff.
sleep next to her, he'd do things I can't even mention with her. One day, his neighbors got suspicious, so they reported him, and the police raided his house, and this is what they found. I'm gonna show her a picture dead, so don't look if you don't want to. She was falling apart, and he thought she was his wife. That went on for 7 years. He died at 75 years old.
This story's called I Finally Got You. A little boy was walking home from school late last year, but he hated walking past the old park because there was a creepy old man in a long brown trench coat who always just watched him. Sometimes the old man would even follow him up the road. When the boy would turn to look, the man would turn away so he couldn't see his face. The boy had told his parents about this many times, and the police had even come, but they couldn't do anything because the man wasn't doing anything wrong. A week or so later, the boy was walking home from school when a white van pulled up next to him. The man said, "Quickly, kid, get in. He's going to get you today." Panicked, the boy said, "What? Who?" He said, "The man who follows you." Not knowing what to do, he got in the van. And when the van turned the opposite way to his house, the boy started to regret his decision. They pulled into the garage of an old house around the corner, and the door closed behind them. The man says, "Come in and I'll get you a drink and call your parent." But as the boy walks in, he notices a brown trench coat hanging on the coat wall. And the walls are covered with photos of the boy. And the man says, "Ha ha, I've got you."
This video is why you should never underestimate the evil ways of true believers. In 2009, Sylvia Meraz became obsessed with Santa Muerte, the female deity known for protection and safe delivery to the afterlife, which led her to believe that she must sacrifice humans in order to become rich. A few days later, a 55-year-old neighbor selling popsicles stopped by to chat when Sylvia, acting on her radical ideas, dismantled and sacrificed her to Santa Muerte. Sylvia then elicited the help of her young daughter to help intoxicate and sacrifice a young man while he was awake. They by human traffickers, but after a tip, went to Sylvia's house and found multiple victims under her daughter's bedroom.
Okay, you guys, if you get easily scared, this is a warning not to watch this video. So the internet is going crazy right now because they think Annabelle the doll, the haunted doll, has left the museum she's supposed to be staying at. What? So this is the real Annabelle doll, not the movie version.
The Annabelle doll has escaped from one museum.
But before you freak out, hold on. It might just be a rumor. So anybody could edit any article they want in Wikipedia, and that's exactly what somebody did. They said that she escaped the museum, which is not true. Or is it?
Injustice
This is why you should always make sure you're home alone. One day, 2 police officers are sitting in their car waiting for their next call. They pull over a couple cars, but nothing unusual. A couple hours later, they get a call saying a woman feels like there is somebody in her house and she is hiding. The police, thinking it's some sort of home invasion, begin to rush to the scene. They pull up to the house and notice all of the lights are off and the doors are closed. The police begin to try and open the door, but the door is locked. They decide it would be quicker if they just bust a window and enter the scene. They busted the window and began searching. One officer says, "I'll search the left of the house and you search the right," and they both agree. The officer on the right finds a bathroom door that is cracked. And as he's opening it, he hears scratching and faint whispering in the bedroom. He stops what he's doing and opens the door. He pulls out his weapon and aims it at the closet and said, "Whoever's in there, come out now." He opens the door and finds nothing. At the same time, the officer to the left says, "I found her, the house is clear."
Begin. Yo, it's 2020. How do we still not know who this is? Jack the Ripper haunted the Whitechapel district of London from 1888 to 91, killing up to 11 women and terrorizing the community. He mailed letters and sometimes body parts to the local newspaper, once stating, "Here's a liver, I fried and ate the other one." Because his victims were disfigured and often missing organs from the body, it was clear that the killer was highly skilled in human anatomy. Despite developments in crime technology, he evaded police and was never identified.
Here's a terrifying true ghost story. 2 sisters
sisters were staying at a very old historic hotel in the middle of nowhere in Montana. The hotel had been around since the 1800s. It was one of the sisters' favorite hotels, and they'd been multiple times. However, the other sisters couldn't sleep because all she heard was someone walking around upstairs on all of the floors, pacing around the room. In the morning, I asked my sister how she could have slept through it, and she told me that above, it used to be a ballroom where people used to dance, but now it was carpeted and empty. There was no hardwood floors. I asked the hotel staff, and the answer they confirmed that there was nobody up there, and if there was, I would have kept hearing high heels on hardwood floors.
This is why you should be careful what you touch. In 2015, a man was asked by his neighbor to collect his mail while he was gone for a few days. A few days later, a large package arrives on his neighbor's front porch. The man can barely lift it, but as he gets over to his garage where he accidentally drops it and hears something break inside. Hoping his neighbor would think the damage occurred en route, he closes his squeaky garage door and forgets about it. But over the next couple of days, whatever was in that package started to smell so bad that he decides to open it up. Inside were two very important finds: his neighbor, who was dead, and a camera that was still recording. The police bring the man in for questioning and show him what was on the camera inside the box. It starts with his neighbor talking to the camera about how excited he is to mail himself home for his YouTube channel. Then, police fast forward to the very end, where they see that the neighbor is now sleeping in the box, and then suddenly gets dropped, and you hear a crack, and the next break, and you hear a squeaky garage door close.
There's a legend so much, it's really nice. I'm almost like a delight. We haven't been out in a long time, and it was really exciting to meet this beautiful girl that he met online. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, and even paid for dinner. He thought he was going great. However, the next day he thought maybe he just had too much to drink, and he woke up in a bathtub. But then he was looking around and noticed that he was surrounded by ice. As he starts waking up and coming to his senses, he begins freaking out. He notices all his kidneys are gone.
Do you see this in Chuck E. Cheese? You need to leave immediately. So many of the workers at Chuck E. Cheese were reporting that these animatronics are coming alive by itself. They'll never go to Chuck E. Cheese during the late night. They don't keep the animatronic on the stage and they're off. Please run for your life. Many of the workers say that these robots come alive at night and have been taking children from their parents. These TikTokers accidentally found a body. There's a popular app right now on TikTok called Randomatica that sends you random locations in your area. Some people find random weird places. Some people even found random weird things in the forest. These were the teens were led to a suitcase. But the thing is, when they opened the suitcase, it was a dead body inside. When they opened the suitcase with a stick and that horrible screech, they just called the cops.
This is why you should always trust your gut. In the early 1970s, a college student decided to hitchhike his way home after class. A car pulls up, a man offers him a ride, and he climbs in. As soon as the car started moving, the student felt totally uneasy, like something was wrong but he couldn't quite place it. Without saying anything, he waited until the next time they slowed down and he swung the door open and ran away. 2 years later, he's flicking through TV channels when he comes across this special interview with a death row inmate. It's just the audio recording, so he hears the interviewer ask the inmate, why did you remove all the door handles inside his car? The man just goes, well, the first time I tried to kill someone, I picked up a college hitchhiker who got smart at some point and jumped out of my car. So, lesson learned, remove all the door handles. When they show this picture, the student who immediately thinks he was supposed to be the first victim of John Wayne Gacy, a.k.a. the killer clown, who had killed over 30 men and boys in clown and stuffed them into his basement.
I need aid to protect Earthrealm.
If someone calls out your
Good
name,
minions are hard to find. I seek allies, not minions.
I was told stories about the legend of the night caller. And it was believed that if someone calls out your name in the middle of the night and you respond, the demon will appear out of nowhere and take you away. According to lore, a young girl said a being when she heard her mom call out to her. The The voice was so big that she stopped listening to listen closely. And again, she heard her own voice calling out to her. She responded, and almost immediately, our door, which was already closed, slowly opened.
What?
Do you know Jeffy?
Huh?
Do you know Jeffy?
But he had the form.
Jeffy?
Yeah. The shadow figure then asked the girl to follow her.
Jeff the killer?
Who else has had mini heart attack? Because I know I did. That shit was scary as fuck.
Wait, I didn't even get scared. Did you see that?
Most of the kids that they heard it call out again that same night. And that is why these are the strangest things that have ever been.
You know what that really sounds like?
This video shows what appears to be a dark humanoid type creature crawling towards the doors playing softly. To run away in terror. Nobody knows for sure what this animal was, but many people claim that it was the South American mixed beast known as the pallbearer. This next video was taken at the funeral of a 7-year-old girl. It shows one of the balloons that was next to her coffin somehow floating directly into the sky level of the audience. Many people believe that this girl had something from other people. The picture behind me might look like a normal photo, but this is actually one of the most real-life haunted photos of the future. Think about a professional photographer in 1972 and just arrived for a wedding. But if you take a closer look at the man standing in black, you see something odd. You can actually see somebody in white crouching behind the man. Also, the people in the picture said that there was no one behind them when it was taken. The photographer said the same thing, and that it would be impossible for someone to crouch behind them without them seeing them. This is a better picture where you can actually see the guy's legs, and then at the top you can see his eyes. The picture was even examined by police photographers, and they confirmed that it was genuine.
Who gave us his own Roblox?
Raiden.
The TV of Jeff the Killer. Jeff the Killer was once a normal boy named Jeff who just moved to a new town in the south. One night, 3 teenagers were at a party. His face was severely burned, but he was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. A couple days later, when he got his bandages off, his face was horribly deformed. He loved it, he said. It was perfect for his brand new personality. Jeff was so much that he didn't want to stop looking at her. He didn't want to face her furious attitude. That saved Jeff for his family, but now he was children with his night.
This is why you should always lock your front door. I can't believe what both of his parents are trying to watch his family. He gets up to the restroom. As he enters the restroom, he sees all of the power in the house, and then he hears his wow. He walks the bathroom door and hears heavy objects being dragged across the hallway. The kid freaking out runs out of the bathroom and runs into the restroom. Once he is inside the room, he locks the door. As he locks the door, he jumps in bed and acts like he's asleep and thinks that this person who is in the house was in his house. He closes his eyes and hears the door creaking. He squints his eyes and sees a man with four eyes dragging the body of his dad. The man dragging his parents sits his mom's dead body in a chair facing him, and then sets the dad's body on the floor facing up. It was almost like whoever was in the house who killed them wanted him to see. He then sees the man writing something on the wall and then climbs under his bed. He laid there for hours knowing that if he moved the muscle, he would end up just like his parents. He finally built up enough courage to read the wall, and the writing on the wall said, "I know
Batman wins."
This is why you should always lock your doors. A junior in high school was home alone working on a paper while his parents were out to dinner. All night he sits with his back to his door, sitting at his desk with his noise-canceling headphones on. Around 11 o'clock, he takes his headphones off at the same time his parents are returning to the house, and he hears his mom from downstairs yell, "Hey Adrian, what happened?" Confused, he runs downstairs and sees right away what she's looking at. Muddy footprints all over the rug. He tells her, "I didn't leave my desk."
And then they realize someone must have broken in. They look at the footprints and there's none leaving the house. They're worried someone's still in the house. They run into the garage, terrified, call the police. Police arrive and they don't find anyone in the house, but they do make a chilling discovery upstairs. The police bring them to the kids' bedroom door, which had been left open all night, and they point to the message written on it in Sharpie. This is the actual transcript of what was written on his door, which means for nearly 2 hours, someone stood in this kid's doorway watching him. This is a highly controversial topic. In 2016, a man posted on Facebook that the local police were going to kill him that weekend. That weekend, he died under very suspicious circumstances that we will get to. Immediately following his death, his YouTube page, which contained footage from his home's camera system, went viral. One of his videos shows a large group of police officers standing in front of his house for no apparent reason in the middle of the night. Others show what he claims to be plainclothes police officers casing his property. But the most talked about video is the one where the van shows up in front of his house, revealing a guy with a fairly high-tech camera who was filming his house. The man was found dead in his home after it had burned down, and he was found to have stab wounds on his back and his stomach. His death was determined to be self-inflicted.
Should make it easier to cut him off from the
rages on online. What happened
These videos may seem innocent, but actually have a terrifying backstory. This video shows a man playing Dance Dance Revolution while some kids unknowingly record him and make fun of him. 6 months after this video was taken, the man, Adam Lanza, would shoot his own mother 4 times in the head while sleeping, then drive to San Diego Elementary School and murder 23 people. This video shows magician Tommy Cooper having a heart attack on live TV. The audience, as well as his assistant, thought it was part of the show, so they laughed along as he died on stage. This video shows a popular CSGO streamer showing off his new McLaren. However, he was banned from streaming a week later for hacking, and this caused him to have a mental breakdown. So he purposely crashed his car into another man, killing himself, a mother, and her child. This video shows a van recording minutes before the venue burnt down and killed everyone inside. Even creepier, the van's name was Bird.
Scariest urban legends from every state. Texas, the Candy Lady. In the 1900s, children in an unnamed rural town began to go missing, and people were blaming it on the Candy Lady. The story says that she would go around leaving candy on children's windowsills, and she'd be able to lure them in by leaving notes promising more candy.
Now we find
The story picked up steam when a farmer found rotted teeth on his farm, and
Brainiac's
eventually
mind is
found
the
the
ship's
dead body of a
CPU.
boy
Apparently, he
with
doesn't
candy
go back
stuffed in his pocket. While little is known about the origin of the story, many claim that the Candy Lady is real, and her name was Claire Craig. Whichever state gets the most likes, I'll do tomorrow.
If we crash, all the city's preserved on
called the
course.
Haunted
Destroyed.
Birthday Party. Samuel died on the 26th of November 2003 from a terrible accident. Now, 3 years has passed.
Clark,
since
wait.
death.
You
But
said
this
yourself,
is
the
about
ship is
Alice, the
controlled by
baby
pure
sister
thought.
Alice, who today is having her 6th birthday
This could
party.
kill you.
What's crazy about
Sounds like a
Alice is
job
her
for me.
brother Samuel died in and after the first break of life, she's stuck in the grass. As she looks out and sees the single in the letterbox. You see, red was Samuel's favourite colour, and the house was full of red balloons on it. But when they found him strangled to death with a string of balloons on the very morning of his birthday, they swore to never have a red balloon in the house again. But after he gets to the rock, no different. Her friends were so oblivious to this, they just kept chasing the red balloons around the house. And since Claire's friends died that day, almost strangled to death by the string of red balloons, the house is now remote for 10 years. I hope the kids like this to see red balloons.
Pictures of First, we have this 18-year-old girl who wanted to get the most extreme selfie, so she climbed up a bridge which was about 30 feet high. And then she fell off, but it wasn't the fall that
Create a
it was
bypass.
on her way
Put the
down,
ship on
she
autopilot.
grabbed the body and the electric
You will not destroy my planet!
testing out the new camera that he got. She was a 18-year-old boy, literally flying out of a plane. It turns out he was hidden in the plane's wheels, and when he took off, he somehow fell out and it was caught on camera. This looks like a typical death plane issue for a night out, right? Except the night would end in disaster, with one of them using the belt she was wearing to strangle the other. and she then blamed it on being intoxicated and said she couldn't remember anything of the night anyways.
You will regret that.
This is the dark mirror, and it's one of the most haunted items in the world. The original owner of this mirror purchased it as a psychic mirror, but
Primitive theatrics cannot save you.
evil about it. So she donated it to a traveling museum for the paranormal. This museum has a whole bunch of different paranormal objects, but the dark mirror is by far the most horrifying. The museum actually has to keep the mirror covered and tell people that if they're going to look into it, they have to do so at their own risk. Because the people who are brave enough always regret it. The people who have little into the mirror claim to feel an immediate sense of pain and depression. But for others, it was far more horrifying. Some claim to see their own facial expressions warp and twist, and others look into it and see their own dead bodies. The people who hold the mirror claim to feel a strange sense of electricity, and every night the museum workers come up the mirror. Every morning they find it mysteriously uncovered.
You're leaving, Brainiac.
They say this is one of the most cursed movies ever because of a horrific accident that happened during the movie I'm talking about is The Twilight Zone, the movie. During this scene right here, Vic Moreau is shown carrying 2 child actors with him. The 2 child actors are Rini and Mika, who are only 6 and 7 years old. But moments after this scene right here when they fall, the helicopter actually crashed into some special effects, and the helicopter crashed right on top of them. The helicopter ended up decapitating Vic Moreau and one of the child actors, while the other child actor was crushed to death.
This is a scary story about I'm Sorry Mom. One night, a woman was sitting in the kitchen reading the newspaper. When she looked up and saw her 6-year-old son coming downstairs. Something wrong, dear, said the woman. I had a nightmare, said the boy. Well, you're safe now, said the mother. I dreamed I was in bed and heard a sound in Daddy's room. He said, when I looked in the door, I saw 2 big black things with white eyes. They came out of the closet and they attacked Daddy. So please, said the mother in a soothing voice. That was just a dream. It didn't happen. The boy continued. They ripped them into pieces and then picked them up. And they licked the blood off the floor. I thought if I ran away, they wouldn't catch me, but they did. They were going to beat me, but they stopped and said, they wouldn't beat me if I promised to. Promised to what? Asked the mother. Promised to distract you when they pushed up behind you, said the boy. I'm sorry, Mommy. The woman went to the boy pushed behind her, and the hair on the back of her neck stood up. The boy watched his mother get ripped apart piece by piece with a smile on his face the whole time.
Dark web videos you were never supposed to see. Part 3. Tonight's video is called Sick. Apparently this video was taken from a movie and the actors were used for human sample costs. But here's where things get interesting. In the video you'll see an off-color. If the actors saw a duck, they were disemboweled. And if they saw a rabbit, they were safe. Make sure to comment down below what you see. As always, make sure to like and follow because every percentage I go up it gets scarier and scarier.
Primitive theatrics cannot save you.
photos taken right before trying to part 5. This is a photo of the actor Paul Walker. This photo was taken in 2014, 2 hours before the trial was yesterday. This is a photo of Martin Luther King. He is on the balcony outside his room at the Lorraine Hotel. He was shot and killed in the same balcony the very next day. This is a photo of Charlie Japan Airlines Flight 123. August 12, 1985, this plane crashed. From 509 passengers, only 4 of them survived. It's the second deadliest single aircraft accident in history.
You're about to hear one of the most disturbing stories on earth. Kidron kept Kinkle was a troubled boy who was always frustrated and anxious in school. By the 8th grade, he was hiding in his bedroom
shoplifting and was caught ordering books on how to make bombs. On May 20, 1998, in Springfield, Oregon, he was arrested and expelled from school when they found a stolen gun inside his locker. When he returned home after the interrogation, he pulled a gun out of his collection and killed both his parents. Then he simply ate dinner and just went to bed like nothing happened. The next morning, where things get ridiculous, he brought his entire gun collection to his school and opened up fire, shooting 27 students.
This is why you should always sleep with your lights on. In 1991, case was found dead in his bathtub, fully clothed in the daylight. When police interviewed his best friend Sammy, she told them about a very disturbing phone call he got from him in 1949. On the call, he told her that the previous night he'd woken up to what sounded like whispering coming from underneath his bed. When he went to look, he couldn't move. As he laid helplessly, he watched a black figure pull itself out from underneath his bed. Once it was fully upright, it reached down and began choking him until he passed out. The next morning when he came to, he felt his neck swollen and bruised. And then he saw blood on his hands, and he saw that there was uniform incisions on each of his fingertips. As he's saying all this to Sandy and telling her how scared he was to bed that night, he suddenly stops. He says, "I hear whispering outside my room." And the phone went dead.
In 2017, a blogger posted a video to his YouTube channel called "She's Still Sleeping." He recorded his wife Penny thinking that she was asleep and made comments about how it was odd that she wasn't awake yet. As it turns out, she had died in her sleep and the blogger had reported her. Since the video has been revealed, a few years ago, an African gray parrot named Bud witnessed owner Martin being murdered by his wife. And the following is a video of the parrot mimicking his owner Martin's last moments begging for his life. The last video shows a reporter interviewing Stephen McDaniel about a missing woman named Warren. During the interview, the reporter tells him that a missing body was found and he mentally shuts down. Because as it turns out, he was the one that killed him.
This is why you should always take your lockdown real seriously. The class was playing a game of the group when they heard the words on the intercom say, "This is not a drill, go into lockdown." The students huddled in the back of the classroom before the power went out. Minutes later, the students heard the sound of a man running through the hallways, screaming at the top of his lungs. The ludicrous man started banging on the lockers, and his screams gradually got louder. He then started banging on the classroom window, yelling, he eventually left, but 10 minutes later, a voice came from the intercom saying that a mentally ill person had entered the school and had attacked the lady at the front desk. The staff sweeped the school, but still couldn't find him, so they locked the doors.
Primitive theatrics cannot
Later
save
that night, the janitor went into the utility closet when this happened. Mary was a funny old girl. She just loved playing with those pieces. They just played with their dolls in their own house every day. The United States and every said, "It's only funny too." They told her that she wasn't true, that her twin sister died of death. How long is this? Mary, frustrated when she went to her wardrobe, opened it and said, she opened the wardrobe door only to see another Mary standing straight at her. Their mum whistled and said, "Sweetie, that's your reflection in the mirror." Mary slowly closed the wardrobe door, and the little girl in the mirror stepped forward. Don't tell me.
The smart choice is surrender.
Extremely disturbing interviews with evil people, Part 1. Arthur Shawcross is an American serial killer that had a very bizarre story that's common.
I can't beat this dude, bro.
5-year sentence after committing robbery and arson, but was released only 22 months in after rescuing a guard from a prison riot. His crimes didn't stop there though, because in 1972 he murdered a 12-year-old girl and a 10-year-old boy, but surprisingly was only given 14 years for his crimes. But it was released early yet again because an inexperienced prison staff said that Arthur was by no means dangerous. He murdered 12 people over 2 years, and in this interview, he describes killing as clean as they did.
She was found with her head removed, and she was the best friend. How did that happen? He just picked it up from moving. Or he just pulled her head off. Yeah, it was already gone.
All the most horrifying things we have ever found on beaches. Number one,
let's go.
54 severed human hands. I don't really know. I don't have words to describe how horrifying this is, and I could not imagine just like finding a bag on the beach, opening it up.
Oh, let's go.
It happened in Siberia. Number two, famine victims. Basically a bunch of human bones washed up onto a beach, and they were actually from something called a coffin ship, which were a bunch of ships that kind of left Ireland during the potato famine where everyone was starving.
Dang, it only took me like 30 minutes.
Number three, a dead sperm whale filled with plastic. Now that might not sound horrifying, but if you think about it, there's so much plastic in the ocean that it took down the largest toothed predator currently on our planet. That is horrifying that it is that present in our ocean and that deadly. For the Montrez monster, people hypothesize that this deformed-looking creature was everything from a chupacabra to the missing link, but basically it's just a really deformed raccoon. As horrifying as that looks, it's just literally a trash.
You'll never hear this sound the same way ever again. 15-year-old Estella was strolling down an aisle at the beach when she heard an odd whistle similar to an apple. She thought nothing of it. Maybe it was someone's falling into another aisle, so she continued to shop. Minutes later, she heard the whistle again, but this time it was much closer. She turned and saw a man staring at her, grinning sinisterly with a bright white smile. He spoke. "Hi, do you want to be my friend?" Something about that smile set Estella on edge. She was terrified. She weakly said, "Yes. Well, let's take a picture together because we're friends." Before she could reply, he held up a smartphone and leaned close to her face and snapped a photo. She then told him she had to go and that her dad was waiting. As she quickly walked away, she turned and saw his head cocked to his side with a grin across his face. But this wasn't the last time she heard that whistle.
You're okay.
Previous little photos that will haunt your nightmares. This photo shows a 15-foot great white shark
Brainiac's work is undone.
Formaldehyde found in an abandoned Australian
couldn't save everyone.
This first responder is helping to aid the Australian wildfires that were started at the beginning of 2020. They caused so much damage and destruction that they actually turned the entire Australian sky red. This shows a female patient undergoing treatment in 19th century Germany. They believe that the crucifixion pose would cure her mental illness. This appears to be an ordinary Chinese statue of Buddha. But when scientists placed it into a CT scanner, they found what appeared to be the mummy of a 1,000-year-old Buddha mummy. Okay, I don't know about y'all, but 2020 is not the year that we should be messing with mummies and seeing what's inside of them.
This is why you should always look behind
Even if I agree
when you
that
are
he
in the
should
dark. There was a girl who lived with her little sister and her mom, and every night she'd always sit in front of the laptop doing her homework with her back facing the door. Almost every night her little sister would come to the door and jump on her back in an attempt to scare her. This annoying act became normal for her.
Bruce is
One
right.
night,
We can't be sure.
she was on her laptop
What we
as
can
usual,
be sure
and somebody
is that
jumped on her
Brainiac
back.
puts
She was a
everyone
little
else
bit
at
scared, but
risk.
she's been through this a
This is
thousand
no
times, so
different
she
than
quickly
Joker.
turned around
If
to
you
confront her
killed him,
sister,
we
but
might
It was never that
that
simple.
was somebody
Diane.
else.
Yes,
This
it
lady
is,
was
Bruce.
standing right in her face,
Metropolis
looking
and
at her
Coast
with
City
that
are
creepy
gone.
smile. But the weird thing
How
is,
many more innocent
she
people
couldn't see
died
the lady,
before you
but she
accepted
could feel
some
someone
lives
looking
need
at
to
her.
be
So she
taken?
quickly jumped out of the bed and ran to her sister's room. She found her sister busy on the phone. Plus, their mom was out for the night, which means someone else was definitely in the room with her. She went to bed that night with this creepy feeling all over her. But the next morning, she woke up to the sound of her mom crying. So she ran downstairs and found out her little sister was missing. And there was a note on the bed that says,
This
"You're
madness
next."
has
This
to
is
end.
the haunting story of Jeff the Killer. Jeff was a young boy who moved into a new home with his family. One day, 3 teenage boys decided to attack Jeff and his brother. But Jeff managed to fight them off, leaving them on the streets with broken wrists and knife wounds. Unfortunately, after the incident, Jeff realized that he genuinely enjoyed inflicting and suffering on others. Later that night, Jeff's mother began to hear a strange noise coming from the bathroom of her house. It sounded like someone was crying. When she entered the room, she found Jeff carving a permanent smile on his face. She also realized that he had cut off his eyelids so he wouldn't have to
Stop, Clark.
Jeff's final words to his mother were, Mom, you lie. After which he murdered his entire family and disappeared. He was never seen again, but legend has it he's looking for his next victim. This has to be the most messed up, unsolved disappearance story ever. Now, I have read my fair share of disappearance stories before, but this one just gets worse and worse until the end, which is absolutely terrible. This photo shows Susan and her husband Josh and their 2 kids. Susan and her husband Josh moved to Utah in order to get away from Josh's father, who was sexually obsessed with Susan and their 2 kids. This scumbag. On December 7th, 2009, Josh's mother and sister went to their house. They couldn't get into the house, so they called the police, and when the police came and entered the house, nobody was home. Then Josh came home and said he was camping with their 2 kids. And when they left the house, everyone was sleeping. Apparently, some of Susan's blood DNA was left in the house. But some of the other DNA didn't match Josh or
You don't want to follow Clark.
And in
I'm not
2012,
following
just 3
anyone.
years later, Josh tried killing
You've
his 2
never
kids
understood
with a
advances,
hatchet.
Bruce.
And shortly
We
after
are an
hurting him
ancient
really bad
people
with the
with an
hatchet, Josh
old-fashioned
blew up their house
sense
with
of
him and the 2
justice.
kids inside of it.
Here's a short scary story. It was 1 a.m. and Calvin sat in his dark living room. The accident from earlier that evening just had been playing over and over in his head. He was in his car and the light turned red, but he was in a hurry, so he just accelerated. All of a sudden, he saw it going from where, and before he knew it, there was a body on top of his car that slid down onto the pavement beside him. A bicyclist rolled across his way and fell out of sight. Horns started blazing and he panicked and he just drove off in fear of it. So now he just sat at home thinking, how could you do that? And then he heard a knock on his door. It was the police. He started freaking out. He knew he couldn't afford a lawyer. He just began explaining, I'm sorry, officer. But the police officer just stood there and said, are you Calvin? I'm sorry, but your son was in a hit-and-run accident. He died on impact. I'm sorry for your loss.
Mysterious photos that can't be explained. This world-famous photo was taken in June 1989 in China after a bunch of protesters were shot and killed by police. The man in the photo stood in front of several military tanks, not allowing them to move forward. The man was risking his life, and who he was, as well as his whereabouts, are still unknown today. And since then, this photo has become one of the most iconic images of human civil rights ever. This next photograph was released by the Pentagon just a few days ago. It shows a pilot flying through the sky with a mysterious object behind him. When zoomed in, that object appears to be a giant metal tube in the sky. The military dubbed it a UFO, or an unidentified flying object. Lots of people who have seen this photo claim that this is mainly a spacecraft. But we don't know for sure.
I will not
This
be
is
your
why you
ally.
should never go
Not the
downstairs
smartest
alone.
choice.
In 1984, an old widowed lady lived in a 2-story house that was completely immobile and bound to a wheelchair. Ever since the mysterious death of her husband, she required a caretaker to come once a day to help her out with it. The most difficult thing the caretaker had to do was pick up the old woman and carry her up and down the stairs because she was paralyzed. A couple months later, police received a phone call saying there has been a murder and the murderer has fled the scene. The officer walked in the door and noticed the caretaker's body was on the floor with her vocal cords ripped out. He noticed the old woman sitting in a wheelchair at the top of the stairs and immediately ruled her out because she was paralyzed. He looked around and saw her phone was on the TV stand but thought nothing of it, so decided to check it. He creeped open the bathroom door. Nothing. He creeped open the laundry door. Nothing. The last night he began to get really anxious and pulled out his weapon. He creeped open the old woman's door and said to himself, there's no phone up here. How did we receive the call? He ran back looking for the old woman but found nothing but an empty wheelchair at the top of the stairs.
It's what she finds in the kitchen that's really scary. In the early 90s, a young girl was sleeping in her mom's bed when she suddenly woke up for no reason. She looked at her door and she saw a very affectionate cat kind of meowing down the hall, as if someone was coming up to pet it. She was to her mom, and they were the only ones in the house. The girl shakes her mom awake and points to the cat just as a man is walking past the door and disappears across the hall. Before the man could come back out and find them, they both jumped out the window, run across the street, and called the police. When the police arrived, the guy is nowhere to be found, but they do discover the front door was unlocked, so that had to be the way he got in and out. But the mother swears up and down that she locked that door before she went to bed. A week later, the mother's cleaning their kitchen, and she opens up the water heater closet where she finds this notebook that inside is their names and pictures of them in it, along with a pair of surgical gloves, which means someone had snuck in at some point, living in that closet, spying on them, and then walking around their house at night.
Something wrong, Arthur. I won't submit, Bruce. Don't bet on it.
You guys are always asking for ghost stories. Are you ready for this one? I just heard about this one today, so get ready for the goosebumps. So this mother believes that the spirit of her 2-year-old daughter who passed away in 2018 was seen at the cemetery where she was buried. Her mother, Sandra, has had problems with people stealing things from her daughter's grave. Toys and personal items. So Sandra asked the cemetery to be on the lookout. Another family has a camera.
I'm tired of fighting you, Arthur.
The family reviewed their footage and what they saw was right away, we said, we know that little girl. These are the images that were captured at the grave.
knew they'd double-cross
The
him.
next day, the family
We have to
returned to the
move.
cemetery, and Sandra, the mom of the daughter who passed, happened to be at her daughter's grave. Sandra said she burst into tears when I showed her the photo because she said,
There's
I
no
know that's my
escape.
daughter.
You wish to fall, so be it.
What the fuck?
Go back to Kondak, Adam. Stay here and you'll be prosecuted.
You'd have to capture me, Batman. And I've underestimated.
That's why you should always change your locks. In 2017, a college girl woke up from a nightmare drenched in sweat and decided to rinse off before going back to sleep. She propped her phone on a shelf, turned on some music, and then hopped in the shower. A few minutes later, she reaches for her phone to change the song, but stops suddenly. Reflected on her phone's screen was a person standing in the middle of her bathroom facing the shower. She somehow kept her composure and turned the water to scalding hot, and then ripped open the curtain and sprayed some juice in the face. As they howled in pain, she ran past them to her kitchen to get her butcher's knife. In a panic, she can't find her knife, so she just runs out of the apartment and calls the police. The police go in and come out with a crazy-looking woman in handcuffs. One of the officers comes over to the girl and says she used to live here and she had copies of your keys. Then he pauses and looks down and brings up a clear evidence bag that contained her butcher's knife, and he says, looks like she wanted her apartment back.
Rethink your strategy.
Did he know the slug gave him a parasite which made him paralyzed and sick. He stayed this way for 8 years
Supergirl,
until
where are
2018 when he was 28. The sickness
Lead them
became
to the
too
cave.
much for him and he died. Stop just putting stuff in your mouth!
This really did happen. In 2015, a man woke up with a strangely posted note sitting on his desk. On it, he didn't recognize in handwriting that didn't look like his. Since he was up late the night before doing some work, he assumed he must have written out the list when he was half asleep and kind of forgot about it, so he just crumples it up and throws it away. 2 weeks later, he wakes up to dozens of these post-it notes all over his wall, and they're all blank except for one that, in the same weird handwriting, says, "Our landlord isn't letting me talk to you." Now feeling totally freaked out that some crazy
What is this?
following around his apartment at night, he starts looking for signs of a break-in, but there aren't any. Instead of calling the police, he shares his experience on Reddit asking for help, and one user's comment literally saves his life. Turns out the man was writing the notes to himself and then forgetting because his brain was slowly dying due to a carbon monoxide leak. That was only discovered because a user suggested he install a
I
detector.
warned him about Diana, but I didn't believe you'd turn on me.
Urban legends from every state. Texas, the Candy Lady. In the 1900s, children in an unnamed rural town began to go missing, and people were blaming it on the Candy Lady.
No more schemes.
The story says that she would go around leaving candy on children's windowsills, and she would be able to lure them in by leaving notes promising more candy. The story picked up steam when a farmer found rotten teeth on his farm. He found the dead body of a boy with candy stuffed in his pocket. While little is known about the origin of this story, many claim that the Candy Lady is real, and her name was Clara Crane. Whichever state gets the most likes will get a war.
He thought about his photo because the story's called The Demon Dog. For the short term they knew him, they called him Shanks. So if you have to investigate Shanks as an American people. But ever since Mark found Shanks, there was just something off. See, Shanks was big, tough, and a very strong dog. But when you looked into his eyes, there was something evil. Something evil that you couldn't get out. But Shanks was a stray. He was found covered in blood once again. The vet said that it was blood in a carcass or something to him there to try and survive. But after we saw Shanks attack Robin Warman while she was hanging out at Washington, we knew it wasn't for survival. You see, Robin was 8 months pregnant when Shanks hunted her down. Police said that they couldn't even recognise her once he finished ripping her apart. And unfortunately, neither her or her unborn baby survived. Since he ran away that day, 3 of his past owners have stepped forward, all with gruesome stories about Shanks. All have refused to describe what he looks like, because he still stalks them.
Dang it, dude.
Taken right before death. First we have this 18-year-old girl who wanted to get them doing selfie, so she climbed up a bridge which was about 30 feet high. And then she fell off, but it wasn't the fall that killed her. It was on her way down, she grabbed some electrical wires and the electrocuted. This picture was actually taken by a guy who was just testing out his camera.
Come on, man. Dude, I hate Wonder Woman, bro. She can just do every single same move and get him every single time. Why is my special keep going away?
This looks like a typical best friend picture before a night out, right? Except the night we had a disaster.
Why does my special keep going away, bro?
Belt she was wearing to strangle the other. And she then blamed it on being intoxicated.
You started a war.
She didn't remember anything of the night anyways.
I hate this girl, bro.
Picture behind me might look like a normal photo, but it's actually one of the most sinister real-life object photos in history. Taken by a professional photographer in 1972 as Jen arrived for a wedding, everything in this picture looks healthy and normal. But if you take a closer look at the man standing in black, you'll see something odd. You can actually see somebody in white crouching behind the man. All 4 of the people in the picture said that there was no one behind them. The photographer said the same thing, and that it would be impossible for someone to crouch behind them without
This is dumb.
This is a better picture where you can actually see the guy's legs, and then in the top you can see his eyes. The picture was even examined by police photographers, and they confirmed that it was him.
Someone offers you this, walk away. In 2016, a man was staying at his friend's cabin in the woods when he decided to go for an evening stroll. A little ways down the trail, he hears someone call out from behind his neighbor's house. He looks up and he sees this skinny guy pop out from behind the building. He starts waving frantically at him to come over. Working this guy to be in trouble, the man takes off running to assist. When he gets closer,
Dude, just dodge it, Batman.
offers him a fistful of Slim Jims and starts talking about how much he hates his wife. Sensing there was something wrong with this guy, he says, no thank you to Slim Jims.
I've never had to play this game. This will be so easy, but I don't know any of my combos anymore.
There was silence in the phone, and then his friend just says, I don't have any. The police are called, and it turns out his neighbor was really some lunatic who had recently killed his wife and had been hiding out in the abandoned cabin next door.
You started a war.
Why you should always trust your gut. In the 1970s, a young couple decided to go for a late night outing in the woods. A couple minutes into their walk, and the man remembers thinking something's not right. He tells his girlfriend, but they just decide to ignore it and keep going. Until he steps on something that felt really soft, like it was alive. Before he gets a chance to see what he stepped on, they hear all this rustling in the bushes next to them, and they both. Years later, that couple turns to the TV
surrender.
Photos that have a disturbing backstory are the shadow is permanently etched on the steps of Hiroshima.
Dude, I can't do my special.
Over 70,000 people. The boy in this photo is Esteban Wright. The Nazis who took this photo and put this uniform on, smiled for the picture, and knew exactly what his fate would be. 2 weeks later, he still didn't catch up. A similar story for this girl whose photo was just taken by a Nazi photographer after Germany had just invaded Poland. You can tell by her smile that she had no idea what was going on. This photo shows 3 young girls smiling together for a selfie. On the right-hand side of the photo, you can see a light, which is the headlight of a train which hits them moments later. While this photo appears to be just an ordinary large class photo, the 2 boys at the top left are responsible for the Columbine High School shooting, which at the time was the worst high school shooting in American history and killed 12 students
like old times. But I guess we both knew it.
Why you should always look under the toilet seat before you sit down. In 2003, over a 5-day period in London, 3 women showed up to hospitals with the same mysterious symptoms. They say they woke up with these horrible bite marks on the backs of their legs, and then while they're at the hospital, they become paralyzed and die. Despite their similar symptoms, the women had nothing in common except that they had recently been to the same pub. Authorities immediately shut us down and do a thorough search inside of the pub, but can't find anything deadly. Until one of the detectives goes to use the pub's bathroom. As he's about to sit down, he thinks he sees something moving in the toilet, so he gives it a little kick. Hiding in the toilet was one of the world's largest and most poisonous spiders.
This isn't fair. Superman is so overpowered, though.
Now they needed to catch him.
Oh, chill.
In 2010, a couple renting a
I'm not gonna beat him, bro. Look what this man can do.
in the bedroom. After reading through it, they decide to call the cops. The final 5 entries are all by the same man. The first 2 are just talking about how great it is to be on vacation with his girlfriend.
This isn't fair. You can spam the same combo every 1 second. Look at this.
Doesn't respond to his ways. In the 4th entry, he hears knocking on the window in the middle of the night, but no one's there. In his 5th and final entry, his handwriting is barely legible. It just says, "It's in the bathroom, we're going to die." The police show up and find the girlfriend's body in the basement. Next to her body was her purse, and in her purse was her phone. When they open it up, they see that she texted her mother one last time, and it just says, "Mike's starting to act crazy. I think he's off his meds again."
You won't eat school food after hearing this story. This happened in 2019, and it was very recent. An old lunch lady girl named Camila this girl absolutely hated her job. She hated the kids she served. They would always bully her and make fun of her fat. And so one day when everything was falling apart, she decided to take revenge. And on the menu it was eyeball soup. This lady took her husband's old and dead body, chopped it up, threw it in some chicken noodle soup, just put some cyanide poisoning so the people who drink it would die. And after she served the soup, there was a confirmed 62 deaths in this school. Then she escaped, and nobody knew where she went.
Bucket Controller's
The
dying.
girl in this photo was arrested for torturing and killing animals. She filmed herself doing it and even posted it online. She hanged her dogs by their collars, nailed them to walls, and even shot them with an airsoft gun. She would then cut them open and rip out their internal organs. This creepy-looking little girl is Jean, also known as the Wild Child, who spent the first 13 years of her life chained to a chair. This photo was taken moments after she just was. This normal-looking civic painting features the ocean with the night sky. However, it was painted by Adolf Hitler, who was a very life artist. However, he failed the entrance exam to art school and ultimately failed. These pieces of yarn in a first-grade classroom are the trajectories of the bullets fired by the Sandy Hook shooter in 2012, who killed 20 children and 6 adults. The reason that the angles are pointing downward is quite disturbing when you think about
it. This is dumb. Dude, this is so dumb. Do your super! Oh my god!
This world is mine.
Now Superman has more health than me, bro. Game won't let me do my super. Yo! Oh my god, dude. Just counter him! Come on, do it! Let's go! Oh my god, that was so close.
Teletubbies. Oh my god, I did some digging, and here's what I found behind us. The idea of the show was actually based on a mental hospital where 4 kids were killed. Apparently the hospital leaves all the kids there, especially those 4 kids. So there was this one girl named Nana. She was put in the asylum because she would always laugh, and so she lost her mind. She would always laugh and dance in her room for no reason, and apparently they believed she was crazy. They broke her legs, they abused her, put her in her room for 5 years until she lost her mind and died. When she died, it says that her smile looked somewhat like this, and she was pale, which is why Lala is a yellow color. Crazy, right? Like for part 2.
This symbol should give people hope. He made them fear it.
That symbol's meaning is up to the person who wears it. When Clark and I founded the Justice League, we didn't govern people. We protected them, plain and simple. Maybe the world could use a team like that again. Welcome to the Circle of Trust.
You are all eating your own poop, and I'm gonna teach you how not to do that. Well, you know you poop and in the bathroom? Well, like you're not, but as soon as you do that, millions of poop particles fly around your bathroom, and then eventually you like nice places like your toothbrush where they land on. So yeah, your mom and dad's poop can be on your toothbrush too. The right way to store your toothbrush is in your bedroom somewhere safe or on your nightstand. But yeah, I'm not gonna forget that you ate your own poop. Like this video if you want more helpful facts. It's about the ocean, let's get into it. So we've
Did I just beat story mode?
the ocean things and discovered. Also, sunlight penetrates about 700 feet into
I'm gonna skip this.
black abyss where we cannot see anything, but many things can still see us. There are about 3 million shipwrecks with countless human bodies being eaten by many undiscovered and unexplained organisms. So that's terrifying and horrible to think about.
1 diamond, another box.
From ships to planes to people.
I unlocked the Brainiac.
The pressure at the bottom of the ocean is so immense it equates to 50 jumbo jets being piled on top of us. There are also plenty of terrifying and deadly diseases that eat our flesh when we were still alive in the ocean. Plenty of creatures have just been discovered, including the giant squid and the basking shark. So who knows what other giant and massive and deadly creatures have yet to be discovered. Also, here's a terrifying situation to think about. We cannot swim up out of the ocean very quick or we will die of something called the bends. So imagine being deep down in the ocean and trying to escape but realizing you cannot swim up, so you are fucked by whatever creature is chasing you. Also, there are tons of dead bodies.
Brady.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's the last day.
I know. So?
Why you should always trust your parents. In 1990, a father and his 15-year-old son worked together at a gas station in Florida. One night, the boy was sitting outside on a break when he saw a crazy-looking woman walking towards the store. They were in a high-crime area, and it was very late, so the boy turns around to look through the glass at his dad to see what he should do. His dad took one look at the woman and just shook his head, no, do not help her. The woman walked
walks up to the boy and says, "Hey, my car's broken down, can you give me a ride?" Before the boy can answer, his dad bursts outside and says, "You need to leave here immediately." Angrily, the woman turns and leaves, cussing them both out the whole way. 1 year later, the boy's in his room at home when his dad calls from the other room and says, "You've got to come in here and look at the TV." On the screen was the same woman from the gas station. Better known as Eileen Pornos, she was a serial killer who used to pick up potential victims at gas stations. Why you should always trust your gut. In the early 1970s, a college student decided to hitchhike his way home after class. A car pulls up, a man offers him a ride, and he climbs in. As soon as the car started moving, the student felt totally uneasy, like something was wrong, but he couldn't quite place it. Without saying anything, he waited until the next time they slowed down, and he flung the door open and ran away. 2 years later, he's flicking through TV channels when he comes across this special interview with a death row inmate. It's just the audio recording, so he hears the interviewer ask the inmate, "Why did you remove all the door handles inside of your car?" The man just goes, "Well, the first time I tried to kill someone, I picked up a college hitchhiker who got smart at some point and jumped out of my car. So, lesson learned, all the door handles." When they showed this picture, the student knew immediately that he was supposed to be the first victim of John Wayne Gacy, aka the Killer Clown, who had killed over 30 men and boys in his clown room and stuffed them into his basement. In 2004, a 16-year-old boy who was staying with a friend in their cabin up in New Hampshire was having a hard time falling asleep. Around 3 a.m., he was still awake, and he remembers thinking how eerily quiet and totally pitch black the house was. And that's when he heard it. The front door opens, and someone comes inside and begins walking through the house down the hallway right outside of his door where it stops. The door opens, and the boy is instantly petrified because in walks this tall, shadowy figure that marches to the center of the room and then bows onto the ground and disappears. The boy stays up all night, terrified that this thing's gonna re-emerge and just look at him. Finally, he hears his friend's mom making coffee in the kitchen, so he runs out to tell her what happened. The whole time he's explaining what happened, she's just looking at him with sympathy in her eyes. Finally, she says, "My husband visited me last night, too." Her husband was dead, and I was that 16-year-old boy. If you ever find yourself in this situation, don't do what she did. In 2006, a group of cave divers decided they wanted to film a documentary in one of the most dangerous caves in the world. But only a few hours into their descent, and a freak storm erupts on land, collapsing the entrance to the cave. In order to avoid the huge falling rocks that were coming off the ceiling, they were forced to swim through one of the uncharted sections of the cave. After they've been diving for over an hour, they luckily come across this island in the middle of a tunnel, where they set up camp and wait to be rescued. After 48 hours and no sign of a rescue, the cameraman actually starts filming in case they don't make it out of there. At the same time, one of their crew members does something very stupid.
You should never go camping without.
Believe it or not, this is a well-documented, true story. In 1947, an American ship picked up a horrifying distress signal coming from an unidentified vessel. The first transmission was all officers, including the captain, are dead. The next transmission was the whole crew is dead. The last transmission was I die, and then silence. The Americans trace the signal back to a ship that's drifting off in the middle of the Indian Ocean. They quickly assemble a rescue team who boards the ship. They find the entire crew has perished in the exact same position. They are on their backs with their hands up as if fighting with some unseen force, and they look like this. There was no physical damage to the bodies or to the ship itself. However, even though it was 100 degrees outside, it was 40 degrees on the ship, and the bodies were rapidly decomposing. As soon as they tie up the ship to tow it in, it explodes, and then it sinks. To this day, no one knows what happened inside of that ship. Some say it was a chemical leak, others aren't so sure. Make it to the end, I'm sorry.
In 2007, a woman was lying awake in her hotel bed when she started hearing a kid run up and down the hall laughing and making tons of noise. She considered going out and telling the kid to be quiet, but eventually just said whatever and fell asleep. The next morning, she got up and asked her teenage daughter, who was staying in the room next door, if she'd heard the kid, and she said yes, it was so annoying. That night, the woman is back in bed trying to sleep when, once again, she hears the kid in the hall. Now feeling pretty annoyed herself, she starts walking to the front door to get a better listen when the footsteps stop right in front of her door and she hears the kid playing with the Do Not Disturb sign. She leans into the peephole to get a better look, but the kid's gone. So she steps into the hallway and looks down the hall, and there's the kid at the far end, just standing there, perfectly still.
Crazy Ways People Have Died, Part 1. In 2010, a man named Sam Ballard was dared by his drunk friends to eat a slug. And so he did. Little did he know the slug gave him a parasite which made him paralyzed and sick. He stayed this way for 8 years till 2018 when he was 28. The sickness became too much for him and he died. Stop just putting stuff in your mouth! Stop!
Careful what you put in your body. In 2014, a couple returned to their home to find it trashed in baffling ways. There was lotion all over the door handles, all of their shoes that had their soles ripped off of them, and someone had dumped an entire can of paint all over the toilet. Despite the obvious break-in, the police come and can't find any evidence of theft, so they leave thinking the couple's not in danger anymore. That night, the couple hears scratching underneath their bed and what sounds like a crying animal. Not wanting to find out what it was, they call the cops, right back and start investigating the house.
Fighters approaching Metropolis.
Wedged underneath the couple's bed was this 90-pound tiny little woman carrying a huge butcher's knife and a hypodermic needle. As they're taking this crazy lady away in handcuffs, one of the officers comes over the couple and is like, so she was high on meth for at least 2 hours. She had been burrowing a hole in the
Dude, bro, what is this? Bro, what is this?
Disaster. The last photo ever.
This dude is a spammer.
Car that eventually crashed, taking him and the driver's lives back in 2018. The craziest part is, Paul Walker wasn't the one driving. The guy driving was a professional race car driver. And the saddest part is, all this happened at a charity event that Paul Walker was hosting. R.I.P. This photo was taken right before the homage bombing. The red car in this photograph right here contained a bomb that killed 29 people and injured some 220 others. Surprisingly, the man and child both survived, but the photographer didn't. This unsuspecting family described the last moments of Ayano's life. The 20-year-old student in the red threw herself over the railing outside of the Niagara Falls is dead. That's super sad. Pretty cool.
True Stories, Part 1. Lisa Lamb was visiting the California Cecil Hotel when she strangely disappeared. Surveillance shows her coming in and out of an elevator almost as if she's scared of somebody or possessed or something, seeing a ghost, but there's nobody there. Nobody could explain the strange behavior. One day, customers of the hotel started tasting something weird. When they went to check the water,
Give me my Brady up.
Lisa's body in it. No drugs or alcohol was found in the nobody.
Fighters approaching Fortress of Solitude.
Remember, your Amazon Alexa is always listening. In 2018, a girl named Alexa came home to her apartment to find her creepy stalker landlord in her kitchen. She screams and threatens to call the cops, and he just smiles and says, I'm a threat to pretty much everyone. Feeling totally sketched out, she spends the next 2 hours down the hall in her friend's apartment before finally going back to her room to go to bed. That night, she woke up to her Amazon Alexa responding to someone's room. It said, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Did you say, I'm watching you? The girl instantly turns on her lights and looks around, but no one's there. So she unplugs Alexa, is about to go back to sleep when she hears what sounds like a man hunting her closet. As she's staring at her closet, she realizes her theft. This kid took a good night and had his phone out. In 2008, the teen decided he wanted to film himself playing this very creepy midnight game. In a nutshell, you turn off off all the lights in your house and you walk around from midnight to 3:33 a.m. And if at any point you stop moving, the midnight man will attack you. Around 2 a.m., the kid thinks he hears something in the kitchen, but he also thinks his wife's just playing tricks on him because he is playing this game. But he goes to check it out. When he gets downstairs, he doesn't hear anything, but he does see that his door is now open. And when he goes to shut it, he pushes back. He sprints away, goes upstairs, jumps into his room, but keeps filming.
Fighters approaching Fortress of Solitude.
Possess the God Spider.
The knife's magic is beyond you.
The faith is beyond me.
Begin.
What? I don't know what these combos are. Ooh, okay.
This is an ancient snake that lived over 15 years ago. And according to scientists, for nearly 10,000 years, it was the largest predator on the planet. Titanoboa's length was 43 feet long, and its weight was well over
Triangle X.
This thing was so big that you could lay 2 rocks on the ground.
Hold up, let me do my move. Let me do my move, bro.
Which is the biggest thing on the planet right now, and on the right is the vertebrate Titanoboa. It is so big that Titanoboa is 3 feet in width, and Titanoboa is Titanoboa was one of the creatures everything in water and land. Everybody on Earth is super lucky Titanoboa is not around anymore. This is the scary story about the hairdo. This is a middle-aged woman who always wore her hair in a bow. She was very proud of her hairdo and thought she was the most fashionable of all her friends. The woman was very lazy and she didn't like spending the time cleaning her hair and styling. Instead, she just left her hair how it was and she never even washed it. Whenever she took a shower, she would wear a shower cap so the water didn't mess up her hair. After a while, her hair started to smell, so she used hairspray to cover the smell. One morning, the woman did not come down for breakfast, so he took one of the waiter to wake her up. To his horror, he discovered that his wife had died during the night. At first, the police thought she might have had a heart attack. However, when they conducted an autopsy, they examined her hair and found something terrifying. A black widow spider made a nest in her hair and laid many eggs. When the baby spiders hatched, they had bitten through her skull and ate their way into her brain. This is a scary story about the strange dream. One summer day, a kid named Chris lost his footing and fell off a cliff. He landed on a ledge and it saved his life, but he was badly injured and had to be rescued. He hit his head on the fall and he was unconscious. The doctors found swelling in his brain, and he had to get surgery immediately. After the surgery, he went into a coma. A few days later, he recovered, and his family were visiting him in the hospital. Chris then told him about the strange dream he had while he was unconscious. In the dream, he was at a train station. There was nobody else in sight. When the train pulled up to the station, he got in. There was nobody on the train. He was completely alone. Then he heard a crackling voice in the speaker. It said, "Next stop, final stop. Next stop, end of line." Something about the announcement sent a chill down his spine, and he jumped out of his seat and managed to get off the train. Just as the doors were closing, he woke up from his coma. The doctor said he was between life and death. He then said to his friend, "If I hadn't gotten off that train, I believe the end of the line meant I would have died."
This is why you always say yes to tandoori chicken. In 2012, a high school tutor and her students stayed up so late one night studying that by the time they were done, the buses had stopped running. Without another way home, the student asked if he could stay the night at her place. Reluctantly, she agreed. When they got back to the apartment, she fell asleep on her bed and he fell asleep on a blanket next to her bed on the ground. A few hours later, she wakes up to the boy standing awkwardly in the middle of the room with a says, "I'm not actually hungry. When I woke up, there was someone under your bed."
This has to be the worst form of torture ever. I still can't believe that this form of torture is real and is this bad. The form of torture I'm talking about is white room torture. It is basically where prisoners are isolated in white rooms, wear white clothes, and eat white food from white plates. Now you might be thinking, how could this be that bad? Well, white room torture is a form of psychological torture concerning complete isolation and sensory deprivation of the prisoners. So you see nobody else and you hear absolutely nothing except for yourself. All you get served too is white rice on a white plate. Oh, and if you need to go to the bathroom, they'll slip you a white paper under the door for you to poop on, and then you slip it right back under when you're done. This form of torture is so bad that the prisoner loses his own identity in the process. You cannot remember who you are, and you can't remember any of your family. The result of this torture is the loss of identity and forgetting everything you ever knew. You come out of this room a completely different person.
Yes, the picture at the end is real. In 1876, a woman from a very prominent family in Paris goes missing. After years go by and no one has a clue what happened to this woman, friends and family ultimately mourn her death and move on. 25 years later, and this anonymous letter shows up on the Attorney General's desk, claiming that the missing woman's family had a secret. Intrigued by the letter, the police go to the family's home, show it to them, and ask to search the property, to which they say, go for it. They search, they don't find anything, but on the way out, they notice something very peculiar. At the end of some stairs was a door that was padlocked shut. When the family refused to open it, the police break it down and make a horrifying discovery. Cowering on a rotten straw mattress in a pitch-black room was the missing woman, now 50 years old and extremely malnourished. Her mother had imprisoned her there after they had fought over her boyfriend, and she had not seen sunlight or another human being in 25 years.
Normal-looking photos that have a disturbing backstory are made. His shadow is permanently etched on the steps of Hiroshima following the nuclear explosion that killed over 70,000 people. The boy in this photo is Esteban Ryan. The Nazis who took his photo made him put this uniform on, smile for the picture, and knew exactly what his fate would be. 2 weeks later, he was killed as an etched. A similar story for this girl whose photo was just taken by a Nazi photographer after Germany had just invaded Poland. You can tell by her smile that she had no idea what was to come. This photo shows 3 young girls smiling together for a selfie. On the right-hand side of the photo, you can see a light, which is the headlight of a train which hits them moments later. While this photo appears to be just an ordinary large class photo, the 2 boys at the top left are responsible for the Columbine High School shooting, which at the time was the worst high school shooting in American history and killed 12 students and 1 teacher.
Now don't be fooled by this photo, because this story is called The Demon Dog. For the short term they knew him, they called him Shanks. So if you haven't guessed it yet, Shanks is an American. But ever since Mark found Shanks, there was just something off. See, Shanks was big, tough, and a very strong looking dog. But when you looked into his eyes, there was something evil that wanted to get out. But Shanks was a stray. He was found covered in blood months ago. The vet said that it was blood from a carcass or something that he did to try and survive. But after we saw Shanks attack Robert Morgan, he knew it wasn't for survival. You see, Robert was 8 months pregnant when Shanks hunted her down and attacked her. Police said that they couldn't even recognise her once he finished ripping her apart. And unfortunately, neither her or her unborn baby survived. Since he ran away that day, 3 of his past owners have stepped forward, all with gruesome stories about Shanks. And all have refused to describe to police what he looks like, but he still stalks them. In 2012, 2 brothers were playing in the backyard when they noticed their dog digging into the shed. The dad was so frustrated by this, he put up a fence for the dog. The dog broke down the fence and he kept digging up. What's crazy is the dog collapsed and died in the friends came over with their dog too, and their dog did the same thing and died in the hole as well. Hearing the children cry, the neighbour came over and he explained to them about the prior owners of the house. He told them that the owner had killed stray dogs and buried them underneath the house. The parents were disturbed by this and they contacted the police. When they started digging up the shed, they not only found a pet cemetery, but they also found bodies in the backyard. Police went next door and questioned the old man,
so happy and never felt this way before in her life. Every day she brought him over to her house, and her dad began to get annoyed because she wasn't spending that much time with him anymore. One day, Rachel's dad told her that her boyfriend was not allowed over the house anymore. Rachel began screaming and crying and ran up the stairs.
Casey.
A couple days later,
Casey.
her boyfriend in the house one night. When her boyfriend got to the house, Rachel tiptoed down the stairs.
Casey.
Then they went to her room. About 30 minutes later, her boyfriend had to go to the bathroom. Rachel whispered to him to be quiet. After 10 minutes, her boyfriend was still not back. So she went out to see what was taking her so long. Right when she opened her door, her dad was standing there covered in blood. And behind him lay her boyfriend's dead body. Her dad then looked at him with a smile on his face and said, "Nobody will ever take my little girl from me."
Here's the truth behind minions. So we all remember minions from the spiritual, but they're not what you think they are. The truth is, minions are based off of a horrific Nazi experiment that took place in 1944. This crazy German scientist manipulated Jewish kids and turned them into slaves. Heavy metal helmets would be forced to work with children so they can't speak or see properly. The helmets were so heavy that they stunned the children's growth, so they'd be short, just like you kids.
I can guarantee that the end of this video is going to shock you. There was a young girl who had trouble Green Arrow because her mom wouldn't let her with other kids in the neighborhood. One day, the mom left to go to the schools, so she stuck outside of the house. She grabbed her teddy bear and went outside, but still, none of the kids wanted to play with her. Eventually, a strange-looking boy approached her and said that he would The little girl
Casey.
have a friend her age, and he eventually asked if she wanted to come to
Did you download FNAF 2 in sister location?
No, it didn't pop up on your account.
I got them. Hold on. After this Injustice 2 match, you get on my account and
Hold on. Do you want to come to my house on Saturday evening?
if I can. How the freak did he freeze me? He's Green Arrow, not freaking Sub-Zero.
Oh yeah, I'm actually kind of mad because you know what new skin is going to be in the clue pack?
What?
Green Arrow.
Why are you
like,
mad?
who's gonna use Green Arrow? Green Arrow sucks booty. I hate it. I literally hate Green Arrow so much. It's so bad. Ah! I hate Green Arrow. I wish it was Green Lantern.
Oh, you're a cat for that.
I'm gonna play Injustice 2. Only your fans know the song to Injustice 2.
Yeah.
Sing it. If you know it.
Wait, what?
Them to Injustice 2 if you know it.
The
If you're a fan,
anthems?
you know it. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said the custom core. I thought you said the custom core Kenshin Injustice 2 one.
That's what I meant, which is a song from Corey. Not the song, but like
Justice 2.
Dang, I thought you wouldn't want to know it. If I was saying it for you, would have been like, where was that?
I just died.
Okay, I don't care about the intro.
Alright, get on my account and try to download FNAF 2 and the sister location.
Okay, I'll try to. It's probably not going to appear, but I could try. See you later.
I got to night 4 on FNAF 2 already. FNAF 2's easy.
One thing.
His car that he just parked. I'm running out of time, but I'm posting part 2 right now, so go check it out. Make it to the end, I'm sorry. In 2007, a woman was lying awake in her hotel bed when she started hearing a kid run up and down the hall laughing and making tons of noise. She considered going out and telling the kid to be quiet, but eventually just said, whatever, and fell asleep. The next morning, she got up and asked her teenage daughter who was staying in the room next
murdered the kid? And she said, yes, it was so annoying. That night, the woman is back in bed trying to sleep when once again she hears the kid in the hall. Now feeling pretty annoyed herself, she starts walking to the front door to get a better listen when the footsteps stop right in front of her door and she hears the kid playing with the do not disturb sign. She leans into the peephole to get a better look, but the kid's gone. So she steps into the hallway and looks down the hall, and there's the kid at the far end.
It doesn't say you have it installed. Brady.
The picture at the end is
Brady.
In 1876, a woman
Brady.
from a very prominent family in Paris goes missing. After years go by, and no one has a clue what happened to this woman, ultimately mourn her death and move on. 25 years later, and this anonymous letter shows up on the desk,
Yeah.
claiming that the missing woman's family had a secret. Intrigued by the letter, the police go to the family.
I was still logged into my account.
Property, to which they say, go for it. They search
Yeah, I went on your account and I saw the games that you have. And like everything, it doesn't show it.
I know, it does that sometimes. You have to actually go to the library and search it up.
I searched it up and it only said, like I looked up FNAF and it said Fortnite and FNAF.
Now 50 years old and extremely malnourished. Her mother
Because it's not called FNAF, it's called Five Nights at Freddy's.
her boyfriend, and she had not seen sunlight from another human being in 25 years.
What?
I could myself over my own scary childhood stories. Up until I was about 16, I didn't know how to put a barrier up on my own energetic field.
Which my rating is the most highest character that I have that's level.
What level?
Hey, what level is your rating?
11.
We lived in this little white house. It was very old. My parents used to always hear me laughing and playing in my room.
My rating level is 6.
When they asked who I was talking to, I told them it was a little boy named
How'd you get yours so high? Raiden versus the fake lightning god.
He was always very kind to me. I would play Barbie.
Hey, Brady, who is the fake lightning god?
I don't remember what his name is, Black Lightning?